Republicans in Kansas are being challenged by survivors of childhood sexual abuse over a state law that protects pedophiles from criminal prosecution or civil lawsuits. Currently, Kansas, which again has a Republican, not governor, this time Democratic governor, but Republican legislature, has a state law requiring survivors to file a civil lawsuit by the age of 21. Now, there is proposed bipartisan legislation that, of course, the Democratic governor would sign if it passed that would remove the statute of limitations for both civil and criminal cases and open the door to retroactive litigation dating to 1984. However, there are Republicans that have different priorities. In fact, they've even refused to hold a hearing to allow the victims to share their stories and to even discuss putting this bill up for a vote. And of course, I'll tell you what their priorities actually are later on. But let me just note that it's insane that there is a law in Kansas that protects child predators. That's what's going on here. That state law, according to the Louisiana Illuminator, fell under renewed scrutiny last week when a Kansas Bureau of Investigation's report into abuse by the Catholic clergy was made public. The 4-year inquiry found 188 clergy members at 4 dioceses in Kansas were suspected of criminal acts dating all the way back to 1950. Hey, guess what? Right-wingers, if you're looking for the groomers, we found them. We found the groomers. They're right there. That said, where's the far right? Where's libs of TikTok? Oh, right. They're going after trans people. Of course. They're ignoring the actual grooming. Now, the Kansas Bureau of Investigations referred 30 cases involving 14 clergy members to district attorneys. However, no criminal charges were filed, again, because of this statute of limitations. In a news conference Thursday at the State House, Representative Bob Lewis, a Republican, this is one of the actually good ones. So there's bad Republicans in the story, and then there's actually a good one. Bizarre, I know, right? But Bob Lewis, apparently being, on this issue at least, is the good one. And he's an attorney who has worked with sexual abuse survivors. And he emphasized the problem isn't contained just to the Catholic Church, and said that childhood sexual abuse happens in every institution where there are children. And again, that's true. And he says, look, the state has not been taking this as seriously as it should. And hopefully that is beginning to change. Well, Lewis, it should change with your own party. Again, they seem to be the only ones right now that are not discussing this bill, that are not trying to take this up. And there are reasons for that. That said, I want to get to the victims here who have spoken out. Now, Kansas Reflector does not identify survivors of abuse without consent. And so that's very important to note that the victims gave their consent for their names and stories to be used. So here I will name them. Kim Bergman, Tess Ramirez, Lisa Patterson Kinsey, and Joe Charest. They all shared their stories at a recent news conference. Now, Bergman, basically, to summarize her story, she was abused by a former coach named David Bird back when she was 12. Now, all these cases, by the way, are past the statute of limitations, and that's why they're speaking out to try to get that changed. A decade later, the same coach abused Ramirez sexually. Bird pleaded guilty back in 2009 to indecent liberties with a child, but only received a 30-month sentence. Charest was abused by her grandfather, eventually even confiding in her priest. You know what the priest said? Go pray about it. That's it. Go pray about it. You know why that was? Turns out her grandfather happened to have been president of the Altar Guild and a significant financial contributor to the church. Ah, I see. Of course. Disgusting. Patterson Kinsey was abused by her own father. So, as a result of this abuse, all of them obviously scared, hurt, confused, angry, and And a lot of them did not come up with their stories until much, much later in their lives. And by then, of course, the statute of limitations in Kansas had kicked in, already passed. And so with the law the way that it is right now, none of these people will be held accountable for their actions, for this abuse. And yet Senate Republicans did not give a hearing to a similar bill that was introduced last year, and so far have not given a hearing to this one. That's despite pleading from Bergman and the other victims that have come out publicly. I thought the Republicans, I thought you were all about fighting against groomers and pedophiles. Well, there are groomers and pedophiles right there. You can do something about it. You have Democrats that are wanting to work with you in order to pass this bill. You have a Democratic governor that is interested in passing this bill. Why will you not hear them out? Why are you in the way? Why are you protecting the pedophiles? Why are you protecting the groomers? Republicans? Why? Now, again, some like Lewis, the Republican House member, are helping to pass this bill. But where's the rest of the Kansas Republican Party? Now, you're not going to be surprised what they're actually doing. They're proposing bills to stop gender-affirming healthcare. Of course. In fact, Senators Mike Thompson and Mark Steffen are trying to criminalize hormone replacement therapy, HRT, and gender reassignment surgery for transgender youth. By the way, those two things are not the same. Gender reassignment surgery does not happen for minors. Now, the way that they set up this bill is that they've actually they're trying to ban it for people under 21. Now, you become an adult when you're 18, legally, under the law, right? You should be able to do it when you're 18. No, apparently not. They say no, 21. 21. Okay. Now, that said, gender reassignment surgery does not happen for minors anyway. Hormone therapy, of course, is reversible. But apparently, their bill, SB 12, known as the Kansas Child Mutilation Prevention Act, would make it illegal for physicians to prescribe hormone replacement therapy or perform gender reassignment surgery, again, for anyone under 21, with few exceptions. The list of banned medication includes its puberty-blocking medications, testosterone, as well as estrogen. So, all those things. There's another bill, by the way, introduced by the same two, Steffen and Thompson, that would require vaccine requirement exemptions in places such as child care facilities, elementary schools, high schools, and post-secondary education facilities without asking why the exemption request was asked for. The legislation will also eliminate the requirement to have a meningitis vaccine requirement in order to live in student housing. So what they are doing is, in Kansas, the Republican Party are focusing on protecting the children from the trans and the vaccines, but not from actual pedophiles and groomers. Making sure that, people who had this happen to them when they were children were not able to get justice. Now, Lewis, again, points out there's a common element in all their stories. That element is that the child sex abuse robbed them of agency, robbed them of their voice. They've been shut down and told to go away, ignored. And he's absolutely right about this. Again, this is why I'm calling him the one good guy that I can see in this story. That's a Republican. Senator Cindy Holscher, a Democrat from Overland Park, also weighed in, said that there's more interest in the issue now following the release of the KBI report on clergy abuse, and said that some people in the past wanted to dismiss concerns because they thought the abuse was only the result of just 3 or 4 priests. Oh, only 3 or 4. The implication of 88 clergy members in the KBI report, she said, quote, woke some people up. Yeah. Now, look, I think the number of, obviously, children that have been abused should be 0. I think if even one child is sexually abused, it's too many. Too many. That said, why are the rest of the Republicans, and I just showed you their priorities, why are they not taking this seriously? Why have they not passed this? Now, Holscher says the passage of proposed legislation could open the door to lawsuits against the Catholic Church and other institutions. She said she doesn't anticipate the state would be flooded with cases, but acknowledged that there could be resistance from some to changing the law, saying, quote, the pushback could be the fact that when people bring civil cases, we're talking money. Now, look, I think with all due respect, I'm going to call BS on that. I don't think that's the only concern. I think there are people out there who actually don't care about, in this case, little girls being abused by the coaches or the churches. I also think that there are people out there who think things like, oh, yeah, but what was she wearing? Obviously, she was asking for it. Did she lead him on? Again, we're talking about children here, but yes, there are people who think that. Insane. And there are some who, by the way, just want to ignore it because it's the church. It's just the church. I mean, I see no evil, hear no evil. I hear nothing. I don't believe it. Sweep it under the rug. And of course, there are the people who are bad faith, very bad faith, that would rather ignore what's going on in the church, in the Catholic Church, and focus all their energy on gay and trans people. Remember, these 4 cases, they didn't involve trans people. They were all straight white men targeting little girls. The vast majority of cases of child sexual abuse involve straight men and girls. That's not to say that, of course, that boys don't get abused as well. They do. And that is a huge problem too. And by the way, some offenders, some abusers are straight women. We don't have a conversation about that either. What I'm trying to say is grooming and child sexual abuse is a real problem. It does exist. The vast majority, though, are not related to the LGBTQ community. They're not related to drag shows. They're not related to LGBTQ teachers. But when there's a certain section of, the political sphere, and I mean politicians, commentators, Twitter activists, hell, even the Twitter owner, decide to focus only on LGBTQ people who are not groomers. Well, when you focus on those people who are not doing anything wrong, you let the real predators, the real abusers, escape from justice. You're helping them. So, and this is not just a message to Kansas Republicans to get your goddamn head out of your ass and go after the real predators to actually protect children, but the Republican Party everywhere. People who claim to care about children, there's real issues here, real problems going on, real abuse, real pedophiles that are getting away with their abuse. And you are helping them by ignoring what they're doing and demonizing a group of people that have nothing to do with grooming or pedophilia at all. Get your head out of your ass and actually do what you say you're going to do, or just be honest that you never cared about children at all. And it's only been a way to go after the LGBTQ community, to demonize them for no goddamn reason other than your own political prospects.